I've debated hundreds of people about the shape of the Earth, evolution, the Big Bang, young Earth creationism, and more. And now, you can too. Rational Answers to Stupid Questions is my book that covers all these topics and more. Or if you simply like learning about science, I did tons of research and there's lots of great content. The book is available on BookBaby, who did all the design, printing, and editing of my book. If you ever want to write and publish your own book, they have an incredible staff that can make that dream come true. Check out the link in the description. Enjoy the video. For something to exist, it must be somewhere and some when? No. Because if it's tenseless, then there is no some when.
Okay.
And also...
There's no somewhere nor no some when?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you look into general relativity, I actually just did an episode of this on my YouTube channel. I talked to a physicist. We talked about the block universe, which basically tells us that now is just an illusion. The convention of time is a useful way to describe what we experience, but in no sense do the laws of physics or anything tell us that the future is any less real than the present or past. So that would be a tenseless universe where past, present, and future are all equally real.
So the present is not my subjective experience in this very moment?
Something like that, yeah.
And there's no objective present, I guess. That makes... I can understand that.
Yeah.
So it's my understanding as well that the singularity contained all matter and all energy. Is that true?
Well, it wouldn't, like, kind of. The singularity was the universe, but matter and energy as we understand them weren't in that singularity. Like, there wouldn't be any identifiable things in it because the, like, descriptions we have for matter and energy break down in a singularity. That's why we call it that. It's kind of like, what's inside of a black hole? Well, we know it comes from the collapse of the core of a very massive star, but it's not accurate to say that inside of that black hole there is matter that's just compressed to this crazy state. That's how it got there, but we don't know what's in that thing because our laws of physics can't actually describe it. That doesn't mean that like they exist though. There are questions about it that we can't answer at the moment.
So then this tenseless state, it was nowhere, no when.
Well, saying where is the universe doesn't make any sense because it's what we can say with pretty good, well, how do I want to put this? The universe is the only thing, so you can't say that it's anywhere. Like it's very inaccurate when people describe the Big Bang as it began as a point that then radiated out. That's not like it's almost impossible to think about it in terms anything or in other terms than that because that's what makes sense to us. But the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. But anyways, so we can say that. So the where it was doesn't actually make any sense. It's just kind of not a proper question. But then when it was, so we can say that the expansion of our universe from whatever that initial state was, that did happen at a certain point. But does that mean that before that point there was no universe, that nothing existed? No, I mean, if the universe, that singularity, perhaps there wouldn't be any space-time as we understand it. So it exists, but the concept of time is just irrelevant because time is really just a dimension of space. And if it's a singularity, it isn't space-time. It's something else. It's still a universe. It's weird, but there you go. Now, I'm not saying that is what I believe. I'm not saying that's what anybody should believe. I only bring that up because nobody's ever successfully argued that can't be the case. And that's why I went on about that for a really long time with somebody earlier today. But anyways, that's what I would say. Oh, well, thank you.
Um, I contend with the point that the singularity was neither matter nor energy, right? Because if the, the singularity had neither matter nor energy, nor non-matter and non-energy, right? Does that make sense? So it was in
I
a
mean,
state of non-matter, non-energy, but contained all matter and energy at the same time.
well, I'm
Is that
saying that in that. So the way I usually talk about this is because I get that that doesn't make a lot of sense, but the way I usually talk about this is I talk about black holes, right? So you don't doubt that they exist, right?
I don't doubt the existence of a black hole.
But a black hole is, although it exists and we know where they come from, we can't say that inside of that black hole is matter or energy, not as we understand them at least. So
But
the
black
I
holes exist some when.
well, yeah, but also if you were to go inside of a black hole, like when you get as you get sufficiently close, the gravity well is so strong that space-time becomes so warped that like for you falling in, somebody would observe you completely freeze for eternity, basically. But as you fell into a black hole, I've heard that if you looked outward, you would see like basically all of time pass before you. I don't know if that's actually like mathematically, if that's actually what it is or whatever. But inside of that black hole is something different than space time as we understand it. So it's not the same concept of space time, space, or matter as we understand them, but they exist. Now, I'm just talking about this singularity event is it's not a black hole in reverse. It's not I'm not saying that's what it's like, but
I didn't claim that you were.
I'm saying it's kind of something like that. Like we know that something can exist. Well, so I kind of got away from what you're talking about, but inside the black
It's
hole, as
okay.
far as I can understand, no, there isn't time. Not a kind of time like we understand or whatever. But anyways, if these black holes can exist and be like that, then why can't a universe exist like that? Again, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me, really, but I've never heard anybody tell me why it's impossible.
Well, we understand that black holes occupy space. They have warping effects on time, right?
Well, yeah, but everything we know about that, we can only describe what happens outside the black hole. Once you cross that event horizon, all bets are off. We have no idea.
Well, I can't claim to know either that specific thing. Well, regarding black holes specifically, and all I know about black holes, they have a lot of gravity, immensely so, in such that it warps space-time, like you said, practically. But I was referring
Yeah.
specifically to the singularity. I guess we could apply the same sort of logic that I'm thinking to the singularity, or I mean, sorry, black holes.
Well, what's inside that black hole, we don't know if it's a singularity. I think a lot of physicists think that true singularities can't exist. But we don't know if that's really the case. So we don't know if there actually is a naked singularity inside the very center of that black hole or if it's something else. And we don't know if the universe was a real singularity before the Big Bang event or not.
Right. Well, either way, you can't describe a black hole as a tenseless singularity because it begins to exist, and I think we've observed black holes beginning to exist.
No,
I'm
we've
not.
definitely never done that before, but we've observed them. So, yeah, the black hole does, we understand that black holes come into be at a certain point in time. But that wasn't really the point. The point was inside of that black hole, there is no time as we understand it. So the idea that that sort of thing can exist isn't completely foreign, I guess.
Mm.
Raphael says black holes do not exist. Whatever. You are the worst Renaissance artist and the worst turtle, so I don't care what you say.
Huh. Well, my argument maybe collapses with the weight of a black hole with that one. I was just going to say singularity must have been somewhere because it contained all matter, and matter must materially exist by virtue of its nature. And the singularity must have been some when because it contained all energy, which necessitates time to be potential. Therefore, nothing cannot exist anywhere or any when and cannot be defined as something. And I guess that's where we define black holes, which are nothing defined as something, some phenomena that we can observe.
I mean, I wouldn't call a black hole nothing. I would just call it like something that we can't actually describe.
Right.
So there you go.
But they're still contingent on causality, no?
Yeah. But like, yeah. What's funny is that black holes do change. I mean, the Hawking radiation thing that we've never observed it happen, but it appears to really be the case that happens. The math checks out. So that means that even the black hole can, but it's influenced from technically sort of outside things in a way. It's weird.
Right.
Hawking radiation's really weird.
Outside of things, that seems kind of
Well, it's like just outside
non-specific.
it's like just outside the event horizon. That's what it doesn't, the black hole doesn't like evaporate because like from within it things are coming out. It's not exactly that simple. What happens is, I think this is what it is, but the gravitational potential energy is so extreme just outside the event horizon that it can actually, we know there's a matter energy equivalence, so that potential energy can actually create particles, but it'll create a matter and antimatter particle simultaneously. And if it creates, when that happens, they always fly away from each other. If it happens at exactly the right angle, I can't remember. It's either so that the matter particle shoots directly back into the black hole or the antimatter one. I don't remember which one. But if it does that perfectly, then what that does is that carries some of the mass away from the black hole, and that's why they evaporate over time. It's something like that.
Interesting. So something with such great energy that it collapses the collapse of matter.
Yeah, like it's caused by the black hole, but it's like kind of at the same time like an outside influence in a way. I don't know. That's the best I can. If I try to say any more, then I'll just
I mean, it seems
say
that
something
I mean,
wrong.
if it, I don't know, it's getting quite theoretical here with the black hole stuff. But I can say definitively that we can observe black holes, and they exist within space and within time.
Yeah,
So
that's true. But
even a
to a
Tesla
black hole,
singularity would.
that's not how things seem. It's kind of like a
Well, from
photon.
the black hole's
To a
perspective,
photon, to a photon, there's space but no time. So, what's that all about?
to a photon, there is space but no time.
Yeah, because they travel at the speed of light, which means they experience no time.
And time is contingent on the speed of light.
The way your perception of time is, well, I mean, really, the time is relative, so it depends. Like you'd have to have two observers to quantify the discrepancy in the passage of time. But for a photon, because they travel at the speed of light, no time passes. So that means to a photon, if a photon goes from here to, or from the sun to here, the photon is simultaneously, according to it, the photon is both here, hasn't left yet, and is halfway here, all at once.
Uh,
That's
that's
that's how that works.
what?
Yeah, that's how that works.
From the photon's perspective, and photon is not a conscious being that can observe anything. But we observe the photon, and we know that it takes 8 minutes for the photon to reach here from the sun.
Yeah, that's relative to us.
Right. I I don't contend that. Um, but from the photon's perspective, there is no time because it has no ability to
Yeah,
perceive
because
time.
the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. Like our satellites for GPS, they move incredibly fast. So the clocks in them have to tick a tiny bit faster than regular clocks because they experience time passes like at a slower rate for them. Otherwise, all the GPS satellites, after just 24 hours, they would be so far off that they couldn't possibly give anyone an accurate reading within even several miles.
That's so interesting. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
relativity
messed
is
up.
such an
Yeah.
interesting theory. Or, I mean, I guess it's not much of a theory, it's observable. So, um, yeah, no, that was the only thing I really had to ask. I don't understand the tenseless nature of the singularity because it exists before now. And you have to call into question the existence of now
Yeah, I'm just saying
to justify your
before
argument,
the Big Bang event occurs, does that mean that there is no existence? No, there's a tenseless existence.
which is a non existence because it's nowhere and no when.
Well, no, it can be made of stuff. It just, there is no sense of time like we understand it. That's all I'm saying. I don't, if I try to,
In my view, time and space are necessary for something to exist materially, right? Matter necessitates material, energy necessitates time. And if all matter and all energy were contained within the singularity, it must have been somewhere and somewhen. And to claim that it was neither matter nor energy that was in the singularity, and thus it was nowhere and no when, I, I think that's illogical.
um, I mean, I've, I've already said, like, I think I've already given my
You said
argument
all you can
basically, so
say.
I don't want to repeat it too many times. But I'll just say it one more time and then I'll let you go. But like the black hole thing, they they
They exist
exist, but
somewhere
those
that isn't
concepts they
here,
are not they, they are not made of matter as we understand it, and within them, time as we understand it is just either not a thing or is completely different. That's all I'm really trying to say. So, anyways, I'm not smart enough to keep arguing about it. We're outside my wheelhouse, but thank you.
okay. Wow. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
I'll